So where do we begin? So I have got a bunch of questions. If I correctly understand, most of the questions are around how do I build my law practice? Can I convert into a law firm? And I am very young, I haven't started, but when can I start my law firm, right? How do I start? How do I go about it? And can I start a startup, right? Can I do a legal startup? So what is the difference between a law practice and a legal startup? Let's start from there. So I had asked somebody many years back that what is a startup? What is the difference with a general business, right? And they said that, see, startup has a very high growth potential and the startup exists for very fast growth compared to a traditional business. A traditional business, if you have 20% growth year on year or 10% year on year, you are very happy. It's amazing. Okay. But comparatively, in a startup, the goal is to grow at least double, triple, 7x, 8x every year. Okay. And that is a very unusual thing to grow at that speed. Most businesses cannot grow at that speed. Okay. But some businesses can grow at that speed. So those are startups. Especially, this is some special feature of a startup, they're hyper growth. At least there's a possibility of hyper growth. Even if they fail, they tried to grow at that speed and they failed. That's a different thing. And also, if you look at investors, venture capitalists, all these people, they will only invest if there is such a hyper growth potential. If a company cannot grow 3x, 4x every year, it's not necessary that they've already grown like that. But at least if there is no future of that kind of growth, there is no such potential, they will not invest. Because it can be a good business, but it is not a hyper growth business. It is not going to give that kind of returns. Okay. So now that is one way to look at a startup. The other way to look at a startup is that it is the scale that it is going to achieve. Its ambition is to be a very highly scalable business, right? So normally in history, a good business is local. Right? No matter how good it's a business is local. Like you cater, let's say you have a great restaurant or you are a great lawyer, whatever, but you are catering to people in a locality. You are not catering to all of India, right? So that was a skill, right? Even if you look at a law firms, how many law firms are there which has a pan-India presence? Many of the law firms which have pan-India presence or claim to have pan-India presence actually have one or two very strong cities. Every other city is like naam ke vaste, there is a small office, right? And they are not very strong there. They are not the strongest firm there. They are not in the top 10 also in that city, right? For big law firms also, in the top 5-6 law firms, for them to open a new city and make it successful requires very good partners, local partners, and it takes 10 years. Okay. So it's very unusual that you will have a law firm or a law practice going pan-India or transnational. On the other hand, you will see startups. Startups are like going in multiple countries at once. For example, in Delhi only, there are so many startups in Gurgaon, right? Spot Draft, which is in Gurgaon, or Legal Pay, and there's so many startups, legal startups are there. Software as a services companies are there. They're not even in one country, they're in 60 countries at once. How? Right? Look at SignZ. There's a company called SignZ. They just help you to sign legal documents. They're in 100 countries, they have customers. Correct? Now, so startups are scalable and they can scale that fast. They can have thousands and thousands of clients. They're built that way. The DNA is such that they can grow very big. Not only they can grow big, they can, there is something that they can keep growing very fast and in a very large area, right? So this is the biggest difference between a law practice and a startup. Now another way to look at it, that if you think of a law practice, right, what is generally the tendency? That I want to do every kind of work. I don't want to restrict myself to one small area of work. I want to do different, more and more things, right? Generally, this is the thing that people would think that, yeah, I handle diverse kind of work. I mean, we are a full service law firm. We do everything. Now a startup is not like that. It is like we do only one thing. We recover money for people of this kind. Nothing else. Why? Because that is what makes them scalable. If you see somebody who is doing $100 million startup revenue, they must be doing only one thing. They can't do many. They are not doing many things. Because if they did many different things, it won't be scalable. It is already very hard to be so good, the best in the world at one small thing. Right? But to be world's best at 10 different things, possible, nothing is impossible, but going to be damn hard. Right? Unlikely. So what is it that people are aiming for then? Right? People are aiming for either you want to run a law practice or you want to do a startup. You cannot do both at the same time. There are many people who have tried to do legal startups, but they don't want to give up the idea that they want to do a law practice. Okay? Thankfully, when I was just out of college and I was doing my first startup, I had one person who's actually the same age as me. I can't say a senior or anything, but he was doing a startup as well. He was doing a startup in robotics. He was an engineer. And he asked me that, do you want to be a lawyer or do you want to be an entrepreneur? I said, why can't I be both? I can be both. He said, probably not. Either you choose to be a very good lawyer or you choose to be a very good entrepreneur. You have to choose one. Because if you are a great lawyer, he didn't explain this much, but now I understand. See, what is a great lawyer, right? A great lawyer is probably arguing before the court all the time, wrestling with different kind of legal problems, coming up with solutions, giving people solutions, right? Now, is this the best way to make money? I'm not sure. Maybe. I'm not sure, right? But is it a best way to build a business which is scalable? 100% not, right? If you want to be an entrepreneur, what you want to do, if you want to build a startup, let's say your goal is to build a 100 crore startup, right? I haven't built a 100 crore startup yet. This year, we're almost like doing 40 crores revenue. Next year, definitely we'll cross much more. Usually we double, triple every year. We'll see where we get in the next financial year. But I am pretty sure the shortest way to get there is to take one small problem, which is there with enough number of people. There are a lot of people have the same exact problem, right? And I solve it better than everybody else in the world. And I have built a machinery to solve it amazingly, right? There's a company called DocuSign. It is used by all lawyers in the US and even in other countries to sign agreements. Can you guess what is their revenue? More than that, hundreds of $millions, right? Just a signing document, nothing else. Somebody built a software for that. One of the most successful Indian startups in legal domain, all they do is a very small thing. They just like, आपका जितना भी cases चल रहा है, उसका आपको updates दे देंगे, right? Cause list में आया नहीं आया, ठीक है, अगला date कब है, इतना ही. You will just get that much update and they charge you money for that. Park every case. Now imagine somebody like ICICI Bank, they have 50,000 cases going on in different courts. Per case, they are happy to pay you 200 rupees. How much is 50,000 into 200 rupees? And number of cases will keep increasing, right? So solving one small problem that people actually have and which they are willing to pay for. Not everybody is willing to pay for it. Many lawyers are there, they have only 20, 30 cases going on. They don't want to pay these people money for tracking their cases. But a law firm will pay that, right? A law firm which is 100 cases, or a partner who wants to know every junior's cases, what is going on, will pay for that, correct? So it's as simple as that. Now, this is the fundamental distinction between a law firm and a startup, is that a startup is not trying to do a lot of things. A startup does not say, आपका क्या problem है बताओ हम solve करते हैं. नहीं. Law firm says that, अच्छा आपका क्या problem है? And I will see what the problem that person has and I'll solve it. So it's a service. Correct? There can be service in a startup also. There are services startups. For example, if you know, can you give me examples of services startups in India? Urban Clap, very good, right? Canva is a software as a service, but pure like human services is Urban Clap, right? Now, Urban Clap or Zomato, somebody is cooking food, delivering at home, services, right? But they have figured out how to make that service scalable. So they never say, Zomato से आज आपको क्या खाना है बताइए, नहीं हमारे पास ये है, आपको खाना है तो आप ऑर्डर करो. Urban Clap doesn't say what services do you want today. These are our services. You order from here, right? So basically a startup has to limit that. But does a law firm say that? Do you get a menu in the law firm? ये देख लो इसमें से क्या चाहिए? नहीं, not possible. Law firms are like, whatever your problem is, we are going to solve. At max, they will say, okay, we are a law firm for technology companies. But now technology companies, whatever the problem they have, will solve. Right? Or we are a litigation law firm. Any litigation problem we'll solve. We are a M&A, private equity, venture capital law firm. We will solve, we'll do this kind of transactions. But then they don't say कि नहीं transaction ऐसे ही चाहिए. No. Right? So that, and because of that, they can charge more per transaction. Right? So a law firm will by definition charge more for every service that it gives, because every service is unique, right? And that is also harder to deliver. You need smarter people to deliver unique service every time, right? But when you look at a startup, it's not like that. The startup is scalable because it is doing the same thing again and again and again and again. And by the way, all smart law firms also do that, right? If you go to any big law firm and you ask their associates, right? Let's say top 5-6 law firms, their associates, they will say, hi yaar, I do the same work every time. I have gotten bored. I want to leave this job and do something else because I'm so bored. Because I have been drafting shareholder agreement after shareholder agreement after shareholder agreement. Somebody saying, yeah, I have drafted 50 power purchase agreements last year. Now I am done. Somebody saying, I have been drafting hypothecation agreement all the time. And I'm doing stamp duty analysis every day. Then why can't they just mix up and give everything to everyone? Like आज आप ये कर लो, फिर कल ये कर लो, फिर वो कर लो. ऐसे क्यों नहीं करते हैं? Because if I give you new work every time, there's a higher chance of you making mistake. And I need to get it checked by somebody else to verify so that client doesn't suffer. So basically, it is economy of scale, right? What is economy of scale? When you are able to do the work again and again and again, and one person does it, then the learning curve is not there. You learn it once and then you do it for many years, right? You don't have to spend time on that person learning again and again. Now for a human being, they might feel this is super boring, but that is how it is. That is how businesses make money. Law firms also make money that way.